I think I'm liking where I just start talking about the subject that I want to talk about. Value and what it means. I really need to start off my videos with saying the topic and then whatever flows, I just talk about it. And value is an interesting one because it is really the core wounding of all humans. And it is such an interesting topic because we are born into the world and then we're conditioned, like I've talked about in so many videos now. And we learn that some parts of us are more accepted than others. And what is the lesson there is then that those other parts are not welcomed, they're not valued for some reason, and most parents are not explaining the why. We just know that there are some rules that are approved and some behaviors that are not approved. And the thing with this then is that there is a wounding that happens inside us that are splitting of the soul. The certain parts are not welcomed and they get suppressed, like I've talked about as well, to the unconscious, and they lay dormant there, and they are, when awoken, they make a feeling of uncomfortability in our bodies, and that creates a dissonance. And we try to suppress the part even further or distract our minds because there are two conflicting sides. There is the longing for the wholeness of the soul wanting to express, and there is the conditioned part that tries to put a conditioned straitjacket on top of the soul and control it. And this wounding that our body is not understanding, because it doesn't understand why when it wants to just show up, it's supposed to diminish. So it's contracting. It's a contracting feeling. And this concept is really teaching us that there are some parts that are not valued, that are not accepted. And this creates a fear of us not being welcomed, us having parts that are not supposed to be there. And this is very uncomfortable for our whole being, because when we show up and have a sensation, a contradicting sensation, an embodied sensation, that it's two different polar opposites that are struggling. There is a shadow of the part that is not supposed to be there, and there is the welcomed part. So the polarity of the whole is in tension, and this creates the illusion that we are not whole as a person. And this creates a hole in the soul, a hole, a sense of lacking, because we are not in our fullness. We are not in contact with certain parts of ourselves, so maybe we project it outwards and appreciate it or not appreciate it in other people, but the psyche is trying to find a balance. And this state of lacking, this state of we feel that we are not living completely, we are not in touch with our soul. This is a state that most of us operate from, and that creates the dissociation, but even to a more extreme. But this wounding then of not being enough and having this gaping hole in our inside, in our hearts, because the heart is, we often have such a symbolic relationship to the heart and what it represents through our history of expressing our love with the image of the heart. So using that to our advantage and picturing the heart can be symbolically advantageous. It can be to our benefit to think of the heart as the place of the soul. And some people do say that it is the place of the soul, so whichever works. But if we talk about the word value and what it represents, because it's kind of funny because value is such a subjective thing. It's such a, like, it's made up. I like to think of value from the symbolism of money, because as a society and collective we have decided that we use money as a representation of our value. So this is basically what an exchange rate is. And when we sell something, we put a price on what it is valued as a collective. What we have agreed on is the value of this, depending on the demand and so forth. And if we really think about it, like a physical dollar or a physical dollar bill is just a piece of paper. So if you take that dollar bill and you're out in a jungle somewhere, it's useless. But if you want to buy something in a very consumerism society, it has value because we have agreed upon it together that it has value. And we use that to exchange value in between each other. And that is why profession and what we earn is so important for us in our social status. If we value that for ourselves, if that we agree upon that being something that represents your worth, but you don't have to, but most people do. And if we talk money, we can talk about it as well as on our bank account. It's just a number. And if the power shuts off, if if we lose connection with internet, if we don't have access to internet, our money isn't there. It's still the same concept. It's symbolic of a meaningful transaction that we can use. It's a currency. So it's a form of using value as an exchange rate. And this is like a weird concept because it's hard to translate this into our own feeling of the self-worth. But it is so intertwined. And this is what manifestation teaches and why it is hard. If you don't have a good self-image, good self-esteem of yourself, if you don't love yourself, you're gonna have some troubles with your relationship to money as well, most likely. That you will operate from a sense of lacking. You think about money as something that is hard, like you don't like money, you find it like triggering to maybe like pay your bills or just having things lay over you because you have given the power to money instead of yourself. You're thinking of it as something that's superior above you and something that happens just like on accident, like something that happens to you instead of you being the source of where the value comes from. And this is a strange dynamic because this is like something that happens internally and then outside and to internally. And this is like where we need to shift, because if we think about money as something that happens externally, that happens to us, we will most likely just react to our circumstances. We will react to getting money. And based on our money blueprint and how our parents viewed their own self-worth, it will most likely be a bit like strenuously, or it will be a bit uncomfortable. We will have a tough relationship to money. And I think a lot of people use this in manifestation videos because it's very attracting, for viewers to watch this, because everyone wants more money, because money equals more opportunities, more things, more comfortability, more life experience. But when we just think about money as the main goal and then try to shift our internal states to attract the money with like visualization and so on, it most often will not work. And what I've come to terms with, or what I've learned, is if we understand what money is symbolizing, we can have this ego motivation that maybe I will attract more abundance into my life if I look at my own internal state of being. And what is it that we're trying to pinpoint here? Because if we're just thinking of money from a lacking point of view, which most of us are, we think of like the feeling of when we get so much, or the feeling of when we get paid, like at the certain like date that you get paid, you get your salary, then it's like your maximum amount that you have on your bank account. And then from there, you feel so rich, you feel abundance, and then you pay bills, and then you like get something that you really wanted, and you just feel this shrinking and shrinking and shrinking, and then coming from this feeling of contraction and lacking, and oh, it's not so much left, and then you feel like this fear spreading. This is like the money has the power, and you're letting it slip away instead of focusing on gratitude for what the money has given you. That would be a shift in lacking to abundance. Because if you have this relationship with like helplessness, is basically what it is. If you have that, it will not be the value of what the money represents is not respected and appreciated. It's like almost like you're unconsciously getting triggered from the amount being less, and then just operating, going back to lacking state. And how to shift this then is, if we don't think of money as determining our value, like the number on my payslip doesn't show me how much I am worth. And it sounds silly, I know it does, but this is how most of us unconsciously think. Like, this is how much I am valued in society, and this is what I have as my like lunch money. This is my resource, and this is how I can show up, and this is the comfort zone that I have to work with during this month. And if we just focus on that, we kind of like come back into this childlike state where, think of when you were a child and got monthly money to live with, and you put it on like candy, for example, or like went to the movies or something, and then you just did whatever you wanted with it, and you found like the freedom from what money can bring, and then use it. And then when it's gone, you just connect it to wanting more freedom, and not having it, and being sad about it, and being in this lacking. That is kind of like the same mindset that we have when we get our salary. But if we instead broaden our horizon of freedom and value, what it represents for us, and if we don't limit it to just money, just what shows up on our bank account, but if we see value in other things as well, we won't be as fearful and feeling as much lack when our bank account diminishes. It won't equal unsafety. We won't be in this fearful state, because the mindset you are in, that is what you will attract. And that is the principle of manifestation. So if you can broaden that with seeing values and having gratitude for things, many things, like having gratitude for just like the things you already have, you already shift from like the lacking state of wanting more, being greedy essentially, into going back into the mindset of almost like like internalizing the state from when you have your bank account filled, when you get paid, and then seeing the possibilities. That's experiential feeling in your body, and having that all the time for everything, not just regarding money, not focusing only on money as the form of freedom for you, but having that feeling of and experiencing things that are not determined by just money, and experiencing and putting value on experiences in nature, for example, feeling the nourishment from being outside, feeling the nourishment from meditating by yourself or doing breath work, or just putting value on different things instead of having anxiety surrounding money all the time. And I know this kind of like, how would this give me more money? But if you're just going into it with that mindset, you probably will not be doing things authentically. But having this shift happen inside you, that value is so much more than money, then as a as a very ironic shift, you will also have the money follow. And maybe you won't even care about the money anymore. You will just be so in gratitude that you will not be concerned with money. And money will be more attracted to being in your presence and being with you. So broaden your horizon on what value is. Gives you more of an empowered sense in your body instead of just seeing value in money and having that dominate you, instead of seeing value in other things, in experiences, and eventually working towards seeing value in yourself. But that's basically what you're doing when you feel value in the experimental things of the present moment, doing things. You're taking your power back. Because I think this happens to us on an unconscious level all of our life, because we put so much pressure on what we're supposed to do with our life, what our profession is, and then also like this longing for more money and fame, and seeing that as like the most praised and thought after life purpose, when it really is not. It really is not. And that is like what everyone says, like the gold you search is within you, and it is true. And when we realize this, we can realize that the feeling of just wanting more and more and more, and having more money and a better profession and things like that, it's the ego's way of searching after control to gain essentially safety for itself. But when we realize that we're just in this lacking mode because we're not feeling gratitude for our moment and we're disconnected from our soul, it's very nice to feel that. And very empowering, realizing we don't need anyone else outside ourselves to give us this abundant feeling, but it really is that simple. And practicing gratitude for our experience, for us just being alive, for everything we have, it will attract in more things to be grateful for. So lacking, abundance, and then gratitude in the middle. That is like the picture I want to leave you with. and gratitude helping you shift your focus and perspective into abundance. Because it really is this free will perspective shift. If you are always searching, if you are in constant lacking mode, you will attract that to you. You will attract that and search constantly and not be in the here and now. Maybe I will make a video also about being present. I think so. But all of these concepts, I'm talking about them in words. I'm giving you reminders. But what is happening is that I'm putting the concepts in your mind, and you need to experience them and have things reflected back to you so that you can integrate these concepts. And that is what I'm doing. I'm like channeling this for myself so that when I edit this, I hear it one more time, and then I experience things, attract things to me that make me in afterthought be like, oh, that's this concept, and then I integrate and integrate more and more and more, and eventually it lands like a new truth for me and for you, hopefully, as well, if this resonates, because it might not be your truth. Maybe you're not ready or don't see it like this, but for those who do see it like this, I hope this lands. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.